Good afternoon from the United Kingdom and good morning in the east coast of the United States. I'm delighted that Humphrey Chen, the Chief Executive Officer of CLIPR, CLIPR.AI, is joining us from the New York area this afternoon. Humphrey, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Policing TV.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Well, we're going to talk about Clipper in a moment or two, very much with direct relevance to policing this side of the pond and your side of the pond, and indeed more widely. But before we talk about Clipper in detail, tell us something about yourself, your background, by way of introduction, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So I used to be the former head of computer vision at Amazon Web Services. So it was actually my job to help developers to see and hear at scale. I also used to work at Verizon on the wireless carrier front, and even I used to even work at Microsoft. And I've got undergraduate degree from MIT and also a Harvard MBA.
So, quite some significant background with a number of major ICT providers, deep understanding of AI, and now as Chief Executive Officer of Clipper, you're working in the policing field as a supplier to police forces around the world. Tell us about how you came into that and what it is that you're now doing with Clipper.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Clipper originally got founded, our job was to focus on helping people to find the most important moments inside of their video. And last year, we actually got accepted into an accelerator program backed by the Walton family in Northwest Arkansas. And so I invested 12 weeks of my time in the Northwest Arkansas region in Bentonville, Arkansas. And demo day, which is effectively graduation, I presented on stage in front of a large audience, and I happened to be the first presenter. And at the end of my presentation, the Bentonville police officer on duty heard my pitch and came up to me and told me that the police needs Clipper. And so he then recounted stories of how much time he spent going through his body worn camera and that began the whole journey for Clipper to like adjust and shift our focus into public safety because you know as a law-abiding citizen and as a techie, normally we are very much focused on staying away from police officers, and so it's not a natural intersection that naturally occurs. But in this case, it happened to occur at the right time and at the right moment. And so at that point, we're like, whoa. And so, we became CGIS compliant in order to serve the public sector, in particular to serve police departments. And man, it's been quite the whirlwind to like understand behind the scenes how everything works, the before, and then we've been focused on how to make it much better, and we've been focused on the after.
Okay, so you mentioned what an acronym I'm not familiar there, CGIS compliant, I think. There may be some occasions when I just ask you to explain for those less familiar what I believe to be a United
U.S.
States
term, that's right.
acronym. So on this occasion, just explain that for us, if you would.
Yeah, so CGIS in the U.S. that basically stands for Criminal Justice Information System, and so that's basically part of the FBI. And in order to serve police departments, systems and people need to be CGIS compliant, and so that's basically kind of effectively the equivalent of an NDA, but it is more rigorous than that, and it's part of the barrier to entry into
Yeah,
the
it's sort of
category.
it sort of gets you into the building. Maybe not quite the inner sanctum just yet, but it gets you. It's an essential in order to
Yeah,
make
it
progress
requires
in
that a police chief support you and nominate you, and then at that point, your organization can become compliant.
Okay, so your website, CLIPR.AI, makes quite some claim on the front page. It says Clipper helps fight crime by increasing police productivity by up to 50%. Just give us what's the basis for that really key claim?
Yeah, well, so the way that our service works is that at the end of a shift, the body worn camera video gets sent automatically to Clipper. We automatically process it. It takes us half the length to actually process. And then the officer literally gets the first draft of the police report. And so basically, we can cut in half the time required to document because you're now starting with a first draft of a paper that is already, 90% done. And so at that point, the officer needs to carefully review, edit, and improve. And so it literally takes a fraction of the normal time required. But to be conservative, we basically say that we will save half, right? I mean, if we said something like 80 or 90%, people are just going to be like, come on, this is like ridiculous. How can you save that much time? And is that actually a good thing? And so for us, we're always focused on, setting expectations low and actually exceeding them.
So I can see that transcribing body camera video onto manually is quite a significantly challenging process. I also understand that AI is changing the world that we live in. So you've brought the two together here, and with the AI system that you have, you're supporting police officers in quite a transformative way here. What's the reaction of police officers who've experienced your Clipper system for the first time? What do they say to you and to your colleagues?
They're like, wow, how did that auto magically happen? For them, I mean, it's just like, pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's just like, oh my God, how did this actually happen? Right. And so, when we first interacted with police departments, the biggest pain points we were hearing were around Freedom Information Act redaction requests. They didn't even fathom the possibility that we could actually generate the first draft. And so it wasn't until we dug in deeper and got more feedback did we actually understand that there were like bigger pain points. And then when we actually got first drafts with the corresponding body worn camera, we were able to train against them. And our goal originally was to generate 50 to 70% of the written narrative. And we were surprised to discover that we actually generated 110%. So you might be like, wait, Humphrey, how do you generate more than what was actually expected? Well, it turns out that the human brain likes to remember important things and diminish less important things, whereas generative AI GPT remembers everything. And so when it remembers everything, the structure, the detail, the precision is actually way more complete, right? So I mean, imagine if you were in college or in university and you were taking classes and every day was your job to recap exactly what the professor said during the class, and that was your homework. It would just seem really redundant to recap exactly what had already been experienced. And yet a police officer every day has to do that with every interaction. They already did it, they already lived it, they already heard it, and now they need to do it all over again in
So this
written
is not
form.
so this is not replacing the officer. It's complementing the police officer. It's
Exactly. I
doing
mean,
the hard yards.
yeah,
I'm in danger here of using a North American analogy, but it's doing somehow the hard yards and then lobbing the ball to the wide receiver stood just waiting for it in the end zone. My apologies there to all North American football fans, where I've just butchered some of the analogy there. So, but it's effectively still meaning the police officer has oversight and involvement in this, but doing some of the hard work.
exactly. And this is where it's redundant for them to have to like rewrite everything they already said and already did, right? So in the United States, like a DUI, driving under the influence, like that interaction can take 2 hours. So that's like 2 hours of time that an officer is walking through every single step. And then now imagine having to like document every single part of those steps all over again, as if you were like reliving those 2 hours all over again. And so for CLIPR, like our job is to just recap it. Like we're recapping exactly what we heard. And the really nice thing about this use case is that in general, people do not like to be surprised. And so if an officer and an offender do not like to be surprised, they're actually going to over enunciate and explain exactly what they want to have happen. And if it's not happening, they're also going to be articulating that. So if an officer says, please put your hands up, and then the offender doesn't do anything or doesn't say anything, then the officer's going to say, hey, I've already told you, once before to put your hands up. Why have you not put your hands up? And so like they're literally articulating exactly what they're seeing. And so for us, it's actually the perfect record of what actually happened. Now, if there is any deviation between what is being experienced and what is being said, that's when the DA's office can actually be the arbiter of actually whether it was appropriate or not. And so at the end of the day, the benefits of body worn camera is the transparency that it offers to document exactly what happened. And an officer may have one view, a offender may have their own view. And at the end of the day, when it ends up being evidence in a court of law, the judge and the jury will decide whether it was the appropriate action to take. And so CLIPR's job is just all about recapping it in a fraction of the time, in a higher quality than was actually normally expected. And so one thing that we've observed is not only are we more detailed, but the quality is actually also higher. And so, if your average police report is a C or a C plus or a B minus, if it were graded, our reports are more like A. And so like if a lieutenant or a sergeant issues out Grammarly to help people improve their writing, it's going to improve it slightly, but it's hard to turn a C paper into an A paper. And so this is where generative can kind of step in, raise the quality bar, raise the accuracy, and at the end of the day, the testimony has the officer's name attached to it. When they submit it, it basically represents their sworn testimony to exactly what had happened.
Okay, so you're making, I understand, great progress even in the United States in getting buy-in to Clipper. You're also, would it be fair to say, looking to expand overseas as well, or do you see your focus very much being on the United States for the time being?
It's global. We understand 32 different languages. 7 of them are actually variations of English. so so this is very much a global thing. We are starting for sure with the United States, just because there is more of an early adopter orientation, and the market is big enough. But for sure, I mean. Clipper already, like as an example, there are officers who see Mexican or Spanish speaking offenders. And in that case, a Clipper is able to take the completely spoken Spanish interactions and generate an English report. And so that's a scenario where police departments are hiring multilingual officers for the purpose of interacting with folks that only speak their original native language. And because captains and chiefs can't read Spanish, it actually works out perfectly for it to be able to translate. And that also applies to interrogation room video. But yeah, we are for sure for global.
Now, look, I find this absolutely fascinating, and you and I could continue this conversation entirely to my satisfaction for many, many, many more minutes. But I do feel that we need to, on this first occasion at least, bring this conversation to a close. Incidentally, I'd love to pick up with you in the future, Humphrey. As time goes by, we can record further material with you for policing TV. But for the time being, let's just come to a close by just your sharing with people who view this video and are interested in finding out more about Clipper. How do they go about doing that? How do they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to our website, CLIPR.AI, CLIPR.AI. We're happy to process a video for you, schedule time, and do a deeper dive and try it out because seeing and experiencing is believing. We also offer 14-day free trials for up to 5 officers. And, you know, this new capability is a game changer, and I have yet to meet a single police officer that enjoys the task of documentation. And so we literally are a police force productivity multiplier. And if we make the job easier for your officers, they'll be happier, and a happier officer is also safer for all of us.
And as your website makes clear, and to read from your website, Clipper supports all body cam and dash cam models with audio recording capabilities. So whatever tech, whatever kits you have,
Yes.
Clipper should or will work with the kits that you have.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Humphrey, it's been great having a chat with you. I found it absolutely fascinating. But for the time being, Humphrey Chen, the Chief Executive Officer of Clipper.AI, thank you very much indeed for your time. Great to
Thank
speak.
you so much. Thank you so much.
The new automated system for generating police reports from body cam footage has been a game changer for officers on the force. No longer do they have to spend hours transcribing every detail of an incident. Now they can simply upload the footage and let the system do the work. This means more time out on the streets, protecting and serving the community. The reports are accurate and detailed, cutting in half the time required for documentation. This has allowed officers to be more efficient in their duties, responding to calls quicker and patrolling more effectively. The new system has truly revolutionized the way police officers can spend their time, making them more effective in keeping the community safe.